evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer Blather 289. Reason for the Unreason. This is a broadcast we knew was coming. This is a broadcast we've warned about. We were chased out of platforms about, and a broadcast we never wanted to make. Finally, the sociotards got their pound of flesh, and a good man is no more. Our motto, since we were banned in Jack Dorsey's Twatter, has been those who label words as violence do so for the sole purpose of justifying violence against words. This applies always, under any circumstance, in any occasion, at any place. And it sure applies now. For years, despicable creatures like Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, et al. have not expressed disagreement or even disgust at opposing ideas, but have labeled them as vile, racist, Nazi, and deserving of even government action to shut them up. Charlie Kirk, a longtime friend to many of us, was no racist. He was no bigot. He was most assuredly not fascist. On the contrary, a lifelong proponent of small government, individual freedom, and the Brotherhood of Man and the Fatherhood of God, he was antithetical to any notion of totalitarianism, to any form of oppression, to discrimination of any kind. Of course, he had a set of beliefs, political, moral, and religious, and he dedicated his life to propagate them and, by argument, defend them, but never impose them upon anybody. All people of any ideology, race, gender, persuasion, or identity were welcome in his tent. Prove me wrong, he challenged us, and argued with tens of thousands without losing his temper, imposing his will, or showing anything but kindness to strangers. His weapon was a microphone, his ammunition, ideas, and he never threatened anyone. He never harmed anyone. He knew not hate, and he is dead. Killed by ignorance, intolerance, and the perversity of an ideology that seeks to impose its tenets upon all of us under penalty of death. Conform or become a target. Shut up or die. Socialism is such a noble set of ideas that it must destroy anyone who does not join in the commune. Charlie is but the latest victim of an ideology that has knocked out dozens of millions of lives in a century of trying to impose the unreason over all of us. Getting rid of it will not be easy. The Gramscian infiltration of our schools, government, even our military, has the proponents of this murderous perversion well entrenched. But it must be done, and it must start now. The unreason that gave us the mentally disturbed social cards, from the communists who killed JFK to the Trotskyite nihilists who killed Charlie, must be eradicated from the body of America. Nobody should fear expressing their opinions. There is no reason for the unreason, and it must end now. Alas, Charlie, until we meet again. This is almost desperately the largest human repository of useless information from my golden cage in Florida, joined by this gentleman over here, Thomas Victor, the only living expert in World War One flamethrowers, and savant extraordinaire from the unlikely locale of perverted. are surrounded by this kind of shit, aren't
Hello?
you? Hello there, can you hear me?
Okay, now I can. Yeah, you got all muffled. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, you're surrounded by this kind of shit, aren't you?
Well, I've seen a lot of videos of people very upset at what leftists are saying. They're celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. Why would you go looking? I haven't watched anything that the left is saying because I knew what they were going to say. They're going to say he was a racist, he was a fascist, he deserved it, and they were going to dance, they were going to laugh, they were going to do all that. So I didn't go looking for any of that. I on YouTube, on Twitter, I've joined the most expensive tier, so I get no ads, and
Hmm.
I only basically get what I want to see. And every now and then I get horse shit by some guy named Brooklyn Dad Defiant, who's a famous leftist, and he's playing videos that are poorly made AI videos where what Charlie's saying doesn't match the movement of his lips. And you know, I don't care about that guy. He's like all these other people. And what he doesn't understand, and what the Democrats don't understand, maybe a handful of them don't understand, is that they're totally fucked now. They're completely fucked. The murder of Charlie Kirk put something in motion that we may have never seen. The combination of Charlie Kirk's public murder with the technology of today has resulted in pro Charlie Kirk marches in Korea. A million Brits came out to march. Every American embassy in the world has people holding vigils outside their front door. So the Democrats are fucked, and they're trying this childish game of saying that the murderer was a right winger. He was the gay Antifa furry with a transgender girlfriend. This is like a cartoon. How much more leftist could this guy be?
Boyfriend transitioning to girlfriend.
Well, see, this is the thing. This is what nobody will tell people, the public, about transgenderism. A huge majority of men who want to become women are actually just gay men, and they're repulsed by the notion of being a gay man. So they say, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. And a huge proportion of men who want a formerly male but now female appearing girlfriend, those men are also gay too, because the overwhelming majority of transitions does not remove the penis. So you end up with a vaguely feminine entity who's got boobies, which are fun to play with, and she doesn't have that nasty vagina. She has a familiar penis. And so this is why men, in adult entertainment, they used to call it chicks with dicks. And it was basically men with breast implants,
In the
Thai
70s, we
lady
used to call
boys.
them transvestites.
Well, okay, a transvestite was a man who dressed like a woman,
Yeah.
but okay, the partner of the murderer is cooperating with the cops, and a photo appeared of this person, and this is a very effeminate looking male wearing a furry outfit, and one of the inscriptions on the shell casings referred to furry sex. So you can't get any more leftist than this guy. And
No.
By all accounts, he was crazy. He would go on long rants in his staunch Republican religious family, and apparently nobody would ever challenge him. He would just be allowed to rant. And because nobody challenged him, and because he thought he would be a hero, because he was an idiot. I mean, remember when all this started? They were talking about a professional hit job by a trained sniper.
You know what I said instantly. Professional my ass.
Yeah.
By the
No.
time they figure out he's an idiot with a 70 IQ, who just got
I,
lucky. It's
I've never
you know
heard.
there are things that are fated to happen. This asshole, the shot 400 feet, 150 yards with a single action, with a bolt action bouncer, anybody can take. Frankly, it
And
hasn't needed a lot of practice.
he also missed what he was aiming for. Nobody shoots somebody in the neck.
Exactly.
I forced. There's some guy claiming that Charlie Kirk was wearing a titanium, a piece of titanium body armor under his T-shirt.
Oh, give me a break.
Exactly, and that the bullet hit the titanium body armor and ricocheted into his neck. That's not true. The 30-06
and the videos
round,
tell a different story.
the 30-06 round that killed Charlie Kirk is a massively, massively powerful bullet that uses foot-pounds. If you, everybody's terrified of the AR-15. It's like a tactical nuclear weapon. The 30-06 has roughly twice the foot-pound, twice the energy, the impact energy. So what you saw, I watched two close-up videos, and I'll never watch them again. What you saw was the massive sledgehammer impact that raised his shirt, because that's what happens when you're shot with a bullet that close of that caliber. And Charlie was dead. Charlie was unconscious instantly. His reaction to being struck ceased before it was completed.
Before a second.
It appeared that he was struck almost exactly in the center of his neck, above his collarbone, which meant that the bullet lodged in his spinal column, which would have created, essentially, it was a guillotine. He was gone before he hit the ground. And the notion, this idiot who shot him, I've seen a video of him reading. He could barely read. And he jumped 12 feet off of a building and landed perfectly upright. Kaboom. And this is why he was limping. People are saying, oh, he was limping because he'd hidden the rifle down his pant leg. No, he'd already dumped the rifle. He was limping because he jumped 12 feet and landed vertically. He was an idiot. He was an idiot on every possible level, including the reason that he murdered Charlie Kirk, because he as the quote was, Charlie Kirk spreads hate. So this was not only the most,
which is the bullshit spread by Democrat-controlled media.
Well, this is the thing. I don't know if you saw it, but a young woman, a young redheaded woman with glasses, put out a video asking President Trump to revive the law that allows for massive lawsuits for defamation against the press. And Trump retweeted it, showing her that he'd seen the tweet. So what people need to accept also is that Charlie Kirk was an adoptive son of Donald and Melania.
To all effects, he was.
So they thought Trump was a hard ass before. They don't even know, as Charlie Kirk's widow said, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what you've created. So this is the end of the Democratic Party as we know it. It's fucked. It cannot unfuck itself for the foreseeable future. And as you sadly said, and I agree with you, there's going to be at least one more of these instances, probably more.
More. more. This is what we were discussing in private a little while ago. But if this Hydra, this monster, it's not going to drop dead instantly. They're going to keep doing this. I remember how many times you and I have said, it's time to stop with this bullshit. The left is not going to stop until somebody is killed on camera. Remember that?
Yeah. That's why I got banned from
That's
Twitter.
that's 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 the one thing that got you permanently banned in Twatter. Um, Similar things with me. That's why we or I came up with those who label words as violence do so for the sole purpose of uh, using violence against words. Uh, Even if Charlie Kirk were what the left says he was, somebody who says odious things, I happen to believe he wasn't. I happen to believe that even in things that we might have disagreed on, which is quite normal among people who use their brains, he very forcefully and cleanly defended his ideas by argument, and not one was offensive. So he was a very religious man, far more than I am. He loved quoting the Bible. He was accurate most of the time, anyway. Eh, his ideas on transgenderism, abortion, reparations were guided by a lot of common sense. They were not hateful. He was never offensive. But even if
Well,
he had been,
leftists need to
that
understand
would
that
be
there are people
justified.
who oppose.
Yeah,
Leftists need to understand that there are people who oppose abortion and oppose um, allowing children to transmit. No, what's the firm? Transform, trans something, whatever. Um, People who oppose allowing
transition.
people transition. That's it. People oppose allowing children to transition, and that's reality. And you're not gonna change that. You're not going to get rid of that idea by murdering Charlie Kirk. In fact, you're going to create the opposite. The number of videos I've seen of multicolored haired, nose ring young women saying, "That's it. I'm leaving the Democratic Party." And they're not only saying, "I'm leaving the Democratic Party," they're saying, "I'm becoming Republican."
Yeah,
I saw a video made by a drag queen. And when he made the video, he wasn't wearing his makeup. He said he went to a vigil for Charlie Kirk in full drag, and nobody said a word to him.
of course not. He can go in full drag to a Trump rally, and nobody's going to give a shit. They're going to
Yep.
welcome him. If anything, they're going to be obsequious just to show they have or no ill will.
Well, this was the thing, and he was surprised, and now he's really looking into the whole notion of conservatism, because people may not know this, but the most intolerant people of gays are other gay people, and the millions of subsects in the non-heterosexual world. It's what, LGBTQAI plus. So every one of those groups hates all the others, and
Absolutely.
drag queens especially. Well, okay. What's happening now is we have come to that turning point. The turning point, the worm has turned, and we can see what's going to happen in the future now. And the Democrats are making it worse for themselves, and they are in total denial about the political damage they've done to themselves. it's the season of firings. I saw a wonderful video. It made me very happy. It was oh, and I meant to say one thing before I go on to that. All the Democrats, the former Democrats I've seen who've left the party, are physically attractive. All the people I've seen celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk are physically unattractive.
Ugly as fucking sin.
Yep. But I saw a video of a very, she looked like the world's largest baby, and she'd just been fired for celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder. She was crying. She didn't know what to do. She said that today she'd spent the day selling her furniture to get money.
Good.
And at the end of it, she said, I'm a nice person. I would never hurt anyone. This is so unfair. Yeah, exactly.
No,
and she was on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I would have said to her, go pedal your ass on the street. You can make money. There's people with fetishes for women who look like giant babies.
Yeah, I'm not a whore, but $20 is $20 type of deal.
Yeah. No,
I don't care what they do. I have zero empathy.
No, of course not.
For people who make the apology of political assassination, for people who celebrate somebody being killed for what they say. And I don't care what it is that they say. I don't care if it's a Nazi marching in Skokie or one of these libtards with a ring on their nose and another one on their rectum, spewing bullshit. I will argue with them. I will tell them to go fuck themselves sideways. But if anybody touches a hair, I will defend them.
Well, see,
which is what these people cannot understand. The apology of political assassination is one of the worst crimes that people can commit in this or any other country.
Well, it's celebration. It's laughing. It's dancing. And the good thing about these people is they've all they've all fucked around and found out. They're deleting their posts left and right.
Good.
But it's too late.
Have you noticed that a vast number of them are social studies teachers?
Or they're teachers who are being terminated on the spot. They're being told to go pack up their desks.
They have no business messing with our children's minds.
Well, there was a university that had a huge number of teachers celebrating it. They said they weren't gonna do anything about it, and the donors called and said, "That's it. We're not another penny for you." And so they backtracked
within
and said,
2 hours.
Yep.
Florida Atlantic University, Crimson, a lot of them went through that process in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. No, there has to be a line, and here's another thing that people need to learn to do. You have to be able to write people off. That woman who looked like a giant baby crying because now she's got fired, has no money. I don't care about her. She made her bed. She can sleep in it. And if it happens to be a bed under a bridge, that's her problem. I don't care about it.
I heard the woman. She is an imbecile whose qualifications go no higher than bagging groceries in a supermarket.
Yeah.
How she ever managed to be a teacher, or there is another one, a head nurse.
Yeah, I saw her.
You gotta be kidding me.
I saw a surgeon in scrubs, a man with a big old laughing.
Yes,
that fucker's career is over. He's not going to be picked up by any hospital anywhere.
You want that fucker cutting you open?
And the irony of it all is that
emotionally stable.
The irony of it all is that Charlie Kirk was considered by many to be a wishy-washy moderate, and they killed him anyway. They thought of him as a Nazi.
When I had discussions with him, always friendly. And you know, because you've been putting up with me long enough by now, that if I think somebody's an asshole, I don't keep it to myself. Uh, you know, I was one of the first to ever call Candace Owens a stupid ass, anti-Semitic bitch. Turned out I was right. I was very early on uh, telling people what I think of Tucker Carlson, long before I don't know uh, what's his name.
Who?
Oh God,
What does he do?
Levin,
Oh,
uh,
Mark Levine, Levine,
Mark
Levin.
Mark Levin. Um, Long before Mark Levin picked up a grudge with Tucker Carlson, I was talking about Tucker Carlson. He's an asshole. Uh, but not because they disagree with me on one point and agree on others, because one is an agent for Qatar, the other one is a nasty uh, grifter who will say anything for clicks. Whenever I had a difference with uh, Charlie, and we've been in contact for years. He started following me in Twitter in 2017 when I had maybe a couple of thousand followers, and we started, with DMs and conversations, and it was me who was the extreme one. He wanted to keep the tent open for everyone, and I would tell him, "Why are you wasting your time with these fuckers?" Turns out he may have been right, and it turns out that he created a movement out of nothing across across the country, universities from California to New York, where a lot of people who may have been on the fence or didn't have the courage to speak suddenly found it. So
Well, not only
Charlie may
that.
have been right, but Charlie is the mother one. Charlie is the one who wanted to talk to everybody.
Well, that's the thing. And in return, they wanted to murder him. The hideous um, entity that is, they're thinking about making him the president of the Oxford Debating
Oh, that
Society. He's happy.
yeah, that token asshole who's a C, not C because he gets C's. He's a passing grade asshole who is being promoted to a position that is a triple A, uh, based on the British
On
version of DEI.
his skin color and his hairstyle. And
Yeah, and the fact that he comes from somewhere in a brown country.
well, he's a
Um,
shit debater.
yeah,
He can't debate. Charlie Kirk
no,
mashed him into the ground. And his response, I mean, this is someone who spent hours with Charlie Kirk, and his response is to celebrate. So, these are okay. Here's something that people also need to understand. All these people celebrating, and even the murderer, they're not moored in reality. They don't understand the horror of being shot to death. They don't understand the horror of family members, of friends. And so they celebrate because they haven't experienced anything bad. And these are people who deserve to have some major horror visited upon them. They need to understand. They don't know that horror, they don't know that something is bad unless they experience it themselves. And years ago, when we had wars, we had the draft, we had depressions, we had all sorts of things. People understood if Charlie Kirk had been shot to death on live TV in 1962, well, okay, just like last night, JFK. When JFK was murdered, the whole country had a national breakdown including those who didn't like him.
Yes.
They were horrified. The country had a national breakdown when Lee Harvey Oswald was murdered on live television. Nobody cheered. They went, "What is going on? Have we lost the plot?" And all these people celebrating, these are people who don't understand horror, and they should experience it. And I'm a big believer that every karmic action has an equal and opposite reaction. And so if you're out there celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes karmically, because I think that it's just the way the world works, that something bad is going to happen to you, because you're attracting the attention of forces.
I believe something bad has already happened to them.
Oh, it's already happened to them. That's why they're ugly, and
it sucks to be them, really.
They're miserable. But I mean, I think they're attracting the attention of very negative forces. And, Charlie Kirk, if something horrible were going to happen to him, it happened the best way possible, in that he was out like a light. And
the only consolation that I find is that he never actually heard the sound of the bullet that killed him.
No. You can see from the footage that
he felt the instant that it hit him, and then nothing.
He felt a rush. He felt something. He felt his nervous system reacting slightly, but then in the next nanosecond,
and then darkness.
He was on another plane.
It's not the same thing with the poor Ukrainian girl.
No, and see,
crying on the seat as she understood that she was dying.
Exactly. I didn't watch that video, and unfortunately, people started showing the still of her cringing with her hand up by her mouth, and I didn't want to see that.
No.
But see, that's another fuck up by the Democrats. They took the side of the guy who cut her throat, and they said, "This is horrible. We can't criticize him." And
he did this because he was hurting. What?
Well, okay, I was listening to Victor Davis Hanson. He could be called a moderate, and he's had enough. And he said, I don't care what this guy's story is. He needs to be locked up somewhere for the rest of his life because he's evil. And it's true.
No, he is definitely a moderate. I think he has to hang.
You think he what?
I think he has to hang by the neck until he expires.
Yeah. You're talking about not Victor Davis Hanson. You're talking about
No. Victor Davis Hanson is indeed a moderate because he thinks this guy has to be taken off the street and locked up. I think this guy has to be taken off the street and after do a process and a trial according to our laws, hang by the neck, put him in the electric chair. Do whatever needs to be done, but get rid of this. This is a genetic dead end.
Well, think about Charlie Kirk's murderer. He starts writing messages to his lover, telling him where to go pick up the rifle, and then the father recognizes him and asks him, "Did you do this?" And he says, "Yes." Father says, "You got to turn yourself in," and he said, "I'd rather die than go to prison." And they call in a chaplain who was also connected to the U.S. Marshals, and this guy said, "Son, there's no way out. Presumably you could kill yourself right now," but of course he didn't have the guts. He wasn't thinking ahead, not 2 minutes into the future.
The guy is a borderline retard.
Yeah, he's got about a 70 IQ, and everything he did was paying homage to some stupid leftist fad. Like okay, the people who who endlessly exchange like the same meme, the furry meme. Oh, whoa, I see a bulge. I mean, okay, if you're a furry, you've seen that thousands of times. Do you laugh hysterically every time you see it, or what? I mean, it's a meaningless fad, and just the whole idea. I mean, I'm a furry. No, you're not. You're wearing a costume. You're not furry. You're wearing a costume and you're taking estrogen. What does that make you? It makes you a nutcase. You're and
Remember the cop that told the woman, there was this woman stopped on the traffic call, and she told the cop she didn't have a driver's license because she was a cat. And the cop explained to her, if you are a cat, I'm going to have to take you to a shelter. And if you're not adopted in 48 hours, you will be put out. If you're a human, then maybe write you a ticket. So are you sure you are a cat? And you should have seen this. It was one of the cop did what they have to do,
exactly.
which is coloring the nonsense.
Yeah.
These are the consequences if you're a cat. Are you sure you still want to be a cat?
No, of course not. She's not only a cat, not only not a cat, she's an idiot. She see, that's what I was saying about all these people. They're living in this weird fantasy world where murder in broad daylight is just some form of entertainment, and
it's a video game.
It's a video game. Yeah, they're all video game players.
You see, Thomas, you don't want to watch the video of this poor Ukrainian girl. My wife lambasted me because I made a mistake of showing her a peculiar video of Charlie, because I happen to believe that people need to see the horror and understand it. And she was very upset with me for a while, and I can understand why. But the thing is that see a cartoon, you can relate to this. You see the person, you see the suffering. You see the suffering of the 3-year-old daughter watching this as it develops. You see the horror of the wife watching this. Nobody should have to go through this.
Well, this is the thing.
And we see it and we can empathize. But these fuckers have no capacity for empathy. Somebody's asking me in the chat if you think this guy has flat effect. The couple of pictures that I saw, yes, he does. And I think he's entirely devoid of empathy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this guy, there's something very, very, very wrong with him. The fact that he's more leftist than leftist. He's everything. He's gay. He's Antifa. He's got a trans girlfriend. And he's a furry. I mean, you can't get any more leftist than that. And
yes, or any more deranged than
deranged. That. And he thinks that the answer to speech is to put a bullet in somebody. And I'm sure see, this is the thing. The action is the action. The intent is the intent. But on a certain level, as proven by his actions after the murder, he didn't really want to do what he did, but he just did it because, okay, my brother says this all the time. People just do things now. They just do things. I saw a video where the cops were called because there was a hotel swimming pool filled with people who weren't guests, and the cops told him to leave, and a teenager didn't want to leave. And he was just not going to leave. And so they were going to tase this guy in the water. I don't know how that would have worked. So he got out, and then he decided he wanted to fight the cops. And you know that cops have changed since Trump became president. Cops now swing haymakers into people's faces. So they beat the hell out of this guy and then tased him. And after they got him in handcuffs, he's sobbing like a 3-year-old going, please let me go. And it's like, No,
Hey,
you're going to jail.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't do
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, yeah,
Please let me go. I'm a good person. I'll go fuck yourself.
yeah, yeah. No, and he didn't know why he was doing what he they weren't guests. They were told you can't be in the pool if you're not a guest. So get out of the pool. And everybody else did, but this guy didn't. And if you sat this guy down and said, why didn't you fucking get out of the pool and avoid getting your face bloodied and sent to jail? He wouldn't be able to tell you. And what I've learned in the past, let's see, Charlie died on the 10th. Is that when he died?
Yes.
So what I've learned in the past 3 days is that all the people who hate Charlie Kirk didn't know a thing about him.
No.
They didn't know a thing about him.
And they all repeat the same 5 or 6 phrases that you can hear in MSLSD, in editorials in the Washington Compost. Uh, he was a peddler of hate. Whatever the fuck that means.
He was
It,
divisive.
it was
Oh,
divisive.
but Democrats
Because
are
you're supposed to agree with everybody all the time.
well, Democrats are unifiers.
Yeah, Obama is the great unifier.
You know, I don't follow politics. I follow the grander scheme. I follow Trump, but I don't follow, Hakeem Jeffries. I discovered in the past 3 days
Mm.
that Democrats have been doing things like bringing baseball bats to the congressional floor and saying that they were going to take Trump out with a baseball bat. I
Yeah,
mean, and now they're claiming,
bragging about the violence to come.
well, I saw two very sheepish looking leftist women who just discovered that this guy had a trans girlfriend, and they were saying, this is going to be very bad for us if he turns out to be a leftist. It's like, oh, you have no idea, honey. You have no idea.
You have no idea how bad it's gonna get. I told you before that today, for instance, because this is my new attitude. I never did this before. Um, I'm not a confrontational guy, but today, uh, after I came back from my vacation, I went around Miami and Southwest Miami. We're in this beauty, and with this on the side, never surrender. You know that I've seen people confronted in supermarkets and places and restaurants. Nobody said a freaking pig to me today.
Well, they know on a certain level that they've okay. The quote from Admiral Yamamoto after Pearl Harbor was it.
Mhm.
The claim is that it was, I fear all we've done is awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve. There's no evidence that he actually said that, but there is evidence that he said to his officers, gentlemen, we have just kicked a rabid dog.
Yeah,
I like that quote better. I want to be thought of by the Democrats as a rabid dog.
that's
And
a
I think
rabid dog.
I
It's
think they
yes,
are starting to see us as rabid dogs, and they are worried. Um, in their little homes, they can mock Charlie Kirk. When they come out in public, like you said, they're afraid. And what we need to see is we need to see somebody try and carry out an armed attack, and we need to see an armed civilian take care of that person on the spot. That's what we
yes.
need to see. And we need to
And
see,
unfortunately, I think that you will have, uh, well, these people tend to act in places where others cannot carry guns. Attackers from the left are first and foremost cowards, people without the testicular fortitude to actually take a risk themselves. They're not going to use a gun in 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 a parking lot of a Texas football game. They're going to use it in a church. They're going to use it in a college campus. They're going to use it in a mall. They're going to use it anywhere guns are not permitted. And that makes it, the armed citizen responding, a very rare occurrence. Although, whenever they make a mistake and carry out their attacks where guns are permitted, we have had several instances of members of the public uh, put a stop to the attacker before the real damage can be done. Uh, that's why I think there's going to be three, four attacks that they're going to succeed. Because right now, if this is it, if the Democrats realize the error of their ways and change now, this is it. In a few months, few people are going to remember this. A year from now, the family is going to hold a memorial, and some of us will go, and that will be it, like it happened with, say, 9/11. But in a very weird way, I trust the idiocy of the Democrats.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I say Democrats, Democrat socialists, to produce more of these in the next 2 years.
Well, Victor Davis Hanson was talking about, and he's correct, mass shooters all know about other mass shooters, and they try to top the mass shooter that came before them. And it's the same with political assassins. The guy who tried to shoot Trump on the golf course, he was trying to do a better job than the one at Butler. Is that where it was?
Butler,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
And now that Charlie Kirk has been murdered, there's going to be someone. Okay, all the conservatives have canceled all their open air engagements, and I don't think they should do that. I think they should just invest in some plexiglass, 3-sided walls. If you're going to speak on a stage, just get bulletproof walls.
Ballistic.
Yeah, exactly. Ballistic walls. That's what Trump does. And, it's just the reality of our times. But for people who think, I've seen a lot of videos, where do we go from here? What does this mean? Well, where we go from here is we take all the power from the Democrats. We make them an extinct political party. That's where we go from here. And people need to remember we had 4 presidents assassinated. So this is nothing new. And we had multiple presidents survive assassination attempts. We had some fucker fly an airplane directly into the White House.
Yep. Remember that asshole?
Yeah.
That was during the Clinton administration.
Exactly.
94 or thereabouts.
Yeah. So this is
just on the side of the Rose Garden.
The only thing that's different now is that the Democrats refuse to condemn it when it's a Republican political figure. And they also lie. They claim that the guy who murdered the Minnesotan politicians, they claim that he was a Trump supporter. The only evidence we have of his politics was that he worked for Tim Walz.
Yes, he was an advisor to Tim Walz.
Yeah.
And then he claimed that Tim Walz wanted him to shoot Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. Only he knows it. He's definitely not a reliable witness. But no, he's one of them.
This is the thing that you hear this all the time, that 78% of political violence comes from the right. It's like, really? Then
Bullshit.
why don't we have any evidence of that?
Yeah, like the guy who shot Scalise at the baseball game, or the Trotskyite who shot what was her first name, Giffords, the congresswoman,
Gabby Giffords.
Gabby Giffords. It was a Trotskyite, or the little lefty shit with green no red hair, who shot a bunch of people at a movie theater in Denver. They're all the same thing.
Remember, there was one who managed to get into the rotunda, and he was killed by the security guard. But
Oh,
the security
after
guard,
he killed two cops.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the security guards killed him. But and okay, you of course the Democrats are talking about gun control. This guy used an old bolt action hunting rifle. Are you going to ban those now?
No, yeah, no. It's somebody's asking here who trained him. Daffy Duck trained this asshole.
Exactly.
When you receive training as a sniper or sharpshooter, you are never ever trained to aim for the neck. It just doesn't fucking happen. You should center mass. You should center mass. If in a very close shot like this one was, because this one was 150 yards, not 200, 150 yards. 150 yards is less than half the length of the ship I just came out of.
Well, he also had a giant scope on his rifle.
Right, with a scope at 150 yards, I can put a bullet between a deer's eyes.
Well, okay, you're claiming
anybody who's ever who's ever gone on a hunt for deer, for rabbit, for ducks, can make that shot very easily.
Charlie was stationary. This guy had a massively powerful hunting rifle with a scope. He was 300 feet away.
420.
You said 150 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 400 feet away. There's people who could do that with iron sights without even a scope.
Yes, a sniper can.
No, he wasn't trained because, okay.
And never one shot.
It's also stupid. He jumped off the building and injured his legs. Then he started openly sending messages to his lover, telling this person where the rifle was and about the engravings. He was bragging about everything he'd done.
Yeah.
So,
and the engraving was so right wing.
Was he trained by the CIA, and then was he also trained to make sure that he's going to have to plead guilty? I mean, the evidence against this guy is incontrovertible. The what I heard is that his prints are all over the rifle.
Yep. Somebody in the chat is saying that Candace Owens and some other asshole are blaming Israel for this. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because Charlie Kirk. See, here's the right-wing conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That Charlie Kirk.
Charlie was one of the most pro-Israel people I ever met.
No, well, Candace Owens and her type, her ilk, say that he recently turned against Israel, so they decided to kill him.
Bullshit.
Because that's what Israel does. It kills the most high-profile American political figures in order to something.
Yeah. I see what Huckabee has to say about that. These imbeciles, and by the way, this is as much as I'm going to say about this particular bitch. Stop talking about them, people. She's pulling this out of her rancid ass.
Well, okay, you said you don't want to say anything else about her. I'll say something about her. Candace Owens is now claiming that the Stanford prison experiment, which you've heard of, assigned serial numbers to the prisoners that each correspond to a major event in American intelligence, and that Macron's wife was one of the prisoners in the Stanford prison experiment, and she's got her serial number means something, and Candace is right now working on figuring out what Macron's wife's serial number meant in the Stanford prison experiment. So Candace Owens is completely off her nut. Candace Owens has lost her marbles, and she can say whatever she wants, but she's a loony. She's gone.
She's bonkers, just like a lot of other people. The Laura Looney's come up with all this shit. But the problem is that these grifters, they're losing their grasp on the grift. People are getting tired of them. And everything is drying up. And once they could go to the White House, they could go to this, they could go to that, and feel important. Now, nobody returns their calls. And the funds are drying up. And they're going to go ever more to the lunatic fringe in desperation. It is to be expected. But does that mean that we have to discuss what they say? I don't discuss what people say in the lunatic asylum.
Also, isn't it enough that Charlie Kirk was murdered while sitting in a chair talking to college students? Why do we have to add so much to it? Why do we have to talk about Israel? Why do we have to?
Horrible enough, isn't it?
If Charlie Kirk hated Israel, why is there no evidence of it? Find me quotes of him saying, "I've changed my mind. I hate Israel now."
And ironically, giving an answer on trans violence, as trans violence was about to be unleashed on him.
Well, the guy who asked the question is fully aware of that, and he's torn to pieces. He can't sleep.
Imagine.
He was trying to tell Charlie Kirk that trans people are totally peaceful, and so are their allies.
Oops.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're anybody who lost contact with reality is dangerous.
Well,
I don't care why they lost contact with reality, they did. Anybody who's living in an alternate universe is dangerous.
well,
Whether
what
he's the crazy schizo in Central Park with a tinfoil hat trying to protect his brain from alien radio waves, sooner or later he's going to feel threatened, react, and kill somebody.
Well, the thing is that the Democrats are showing us that they want all of us dead, preferably murdered in a violent way. That's what they want. That would satisfy them. And you can't, they're all talking about lowering the rhetoric. They're the ones who they're blaming Trump. The day that Charlie was shot, all these conservatives on these various panels were asked, isn't it time for your party to lower the rhetoric? And it's like, because Charlie Kirk was shot by a leftist, this is our fault somehow?
No. And it isn't society's fault.
No.
It is the left's
Yeah.
fault. It is the assholes in academia and in schools who indoctrinate our kids, telling them how speech is dangerous. Mm,
Well,
I, I,
speech is
I,
violence. Speech
I
is
was right.
violence.
I was always a fan of Thomas Jefferson. If it doesn't pick my pocket or break my bones, I don't give a crap. I don't care what people say. I don't. If anybody watching this starts to insult me, I don't give a hoot. I don't give a flying crap. Knock yourselves out. It's words. I bathe in your words of contempt. I don't give a shit. Nobody's saying that. If you are hurt because somebody said caca in your neighborhood, you're fucking delusional. What you need is a psychiatrist and a padded room.
If you go to the National Archives, now they're back to normal. Up until the Trump administration was reelected, they had a disclaimer saying that if you enter the National Archives digital library, you're going to find words and concepts that may harm you.
How?
I don't know. What? What?
I saw a word, parallelepipedo. It did heinous harm on me, irreparable harm. I need compensation. What the fuck? And you're right. I didn't see it, but you told me once. I never went to the digital archive. The last time I went to the National Archives, we were still digging through paper and card indexes. Eh,
They're trying to digitalize all of their holdings, and
yes,
they're getting pushback from people who don't want this stuff out there because someone might see the N word, or they might see someone saying, "Boy, I sure
I,
love owning
I saw a
slaves."
disclaimer in the website
Mhm.
that I thought was ridiculous. But that's the thing. We this when we allow those disclaimers on the archives website, when we allow uh, safety rooms where our students can retreat to be safe from words that trigger them, we are creating a generation of psychopaths.
Well, when I was on before I got kicked off of Twitter version 1.0, I found this photo of George Patton, and it's an eerie photo because he looks exactly like Trump.
Hmm.
He's wearing a helmet, and so I put them side by side, and I said, "Look at this," and in all the comments, somebody said, "Patton." I don't know if you know this, but Patton was a virulent anti-Semite, and I said, "Yeah, I do know this." And Patton also fought. He helped destroy the army, the armed forces that were trying to exterminate Jewish people. So you have to weigh these things out. Personally, he had a problem with Jews. Professionally, he did everything he could to stop the people who were trying to murder all the Jews. So what did Patton do to physically harm Jewish people? Nothing.
Now,
Nothing. I'm not Jewish, so I'm not going to tell you, somebody get over it. But I am going to say, yeah, I know that about Patton. Patton was a very, very, very flawed man.
yep.
Patton slapped a soldier with PTSD and ended up having to apologize. And there was a cartoon in the newspaper that showed him with a swastika on his boot. And,
Right, because remember he called Rommel a magnificent bastard.
yeah. No, he was very flawed, but he also was a genius who helped destroy the Nazis. And
Yes, and
you know,
and liberate concentration and extermination camps.
well, this is the thing that okay. There's a British historian named Dan Snow, and Dan Snow will rate movies for their historical accuracies. And he did Schindler's List, and he said the movie is very, very kind to Oscar Schindler. And
Yes.
he said, regardless of all that, Schindler did save 4,000 Jewish people, and he didn't do it for the reasons shown in the movie, but he did it.
No, he
And
did it to save
Israel today,
his companies. He did it
exactly, and
to save his industry because otherwise he couldn't get employees, he couldn't get workers.
exactly, and Israel honors him as righteous among
Yeah,
nations, knowing
because he
full
did
well what
save
his motivation
4,000 Jews.
was.
Yeah, yes. But you see, Francisco Franco, the dictator in Spain, it, it's a funny thing because Wikipedia calls him a dictator and Fidel Castro a president.
Yeah, exactly.
But Francisco Franco, whom I do believe was a son of a bitch, but not for the reasons some people think. Most people don't know he was a lefty too. His political movement was uh, unionist socialism.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he saved a shit ton of Jews in World War II.
He said what?
He saved
Oh,
a shit ton of Jews in World War II.
mm-hmm.
He instructed Spanish embassies to issue Spanish passports to any Jew who could claim descent from those expelled from Spain in 1492. And as is usually the case, they massaged the documents so that just about any Jew who asked for received a Spanish passport. And tens of thousands were spirited out of, say, Thessaloniki on that basis. So he is a son of a bitch. He saved Jews. Both things are true. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a Japanese diplomat who did the same thing. He was in Hungary, I think, and he was issuing travel papers, and he got called back to Japan because the Japanese found out he was doing that, and he took a whole stack and he went to the train station. And he was throwing them out the window as the train was driving away, and so he saved untold hundreds that way. And
The Spanish consul in Thessaloniki, after granting passports and forcing the Germans to accept them, he found a woman that the Germans were adamant to not recognize her Spanish passport because they questioned the legitimacy, probably well founded, questioning. He married her and was then expelled, and he had to leave back for Spain and took his new wife with him, and the Germans had to put up with it.
well, here's what's so bizarre about all this stuff. Almost nobody knows this, but Hitler during World War II issued safe passages to multiple Jews. One of them was his family doctor in Vienna, and he issued a special order that this guy was to be protected at all costs. And he was allowed to die a natural death in his home. One of Hitler's best generals, his last name was Heinrich, and Heinrich's wife was Jewish, and Heinrich fought all the way up until the Battle of Berlin, and he was one of the. He died in 1984. He made it all the way to 1984, I believe, and so The question is, I mean, people are really, 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 they want simple answers. And the simple answer is that Charlie Kirk was a racist and a Nazi and a fascist and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And none of it's true. But you'll never get through to those people. They're beyond help. So you have to cut them off. You have to not worry about their welfare. And if you can, you get them fired. You fuck up their lives. You make them pay. And when they make videos.
By the way, I never liked this. I never liked the cancel culture, but they wrote the rules.
Yeah. I mean,
they did it to us. They did it to me. They did it to you. They did it to everybody I know. So you know what, assholes? Payback time.
Well, also, the only way it's ever going to stop is if Republicans play by Democrat rules.
By those rules. I mean, I don't like them.
So if you can get these people fired, after they're fired and they make their weeping TikTok video bemoaning their fate, mock them in the comments.
Yes. Offer them a job in a gas station. Fuck them.
Yeah. I've seen some very, very serious videos. Okay, J.K. Rowling she posted a tweet about, if you oppose free speech, you're not liberal, you're illiberal, you're totalitarian. And somebody responded saying, I didn't know Charlie Kirk personally, and I disagreed with most of what he said, but I'm gutted by what happened to him, and I can't understand why. And she said, because you're a normal human being. You've got empathy. You understand that it was wrong for him to be murdered for his beliefs.
That's one. And the thing too, she's finally discovering what I always knew. The socialists appropriated the concept of liberalism.
Hmm?
They were never liberal.
No,
they are not liberal. They will never be liberal. They're the antithesis of liberalism. Liberalism was a political philosophy that aimed to expand the rights of individuals as far as possible with the smallest government consistent with a civilized society. Jefferson wasn't liberal, Madison wasn't liberal, Washington wasn't liberal. These fuckers are not. They're totalitarian little shits who want to silence you, who want you to conform to the dictates of the state or the party and shut the fuck up and do your job
or die
or suffer the consequences.
Yeah. I saw a tweet from a young woman who her eyes had been opened, and she was very shocked because she'd always considered herself a Huey Long Democrat.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Huey Long's
the fish king, the kingfish.
Yeah, Huey Long's social program wouldn't have existed without his secret police. I mean, in Huey Long's Louisiana, if you spoke up against him, you'd find your house burned to the ground.
Yeah, and your balls tied to your neck.
Exactly. So, I don't know. People just continue. I mean, I hope she's finally come to realize that the only.
I would like to say that Huey Long was a fascist, but really he was no more than a gangster.
Yeah,
he was a mafioso.
Yeah. Well, okay, John Gotti was well liked in his home neighborhood because he would buy people groceries and he would hold these huge outdoor parties that were everyone could come for free, and so they loved him. He's a wonderful guy. I have nothing against him. He was a mafioso. He had people murdered, and that's why he ended up going to prison when his head murder guy turned against him. So it's The thing that the leftists are having to deal with now is that for years they spoke of committing violence against conservatives, and now it's happening,
Yeah,
and they can't stop it, and they can't admit that they're the ones who started it, so they're fucked. They're
they're really fun because most people are beginning to get smarter about
Mhm.
this. They're beginning to see this for what it is. Now, a large cargo ship doesn't turn on a dime in the ocean, and these things are, though there are inflection points, and we're in one now. It, it's not a 180-degree turn for everybody. So there are still a bunch of fanaticals of the death cult of socialism in this country, and they will continue to act either through coordination or on their own, as it's always been the case. Some of them will feel betrayed by the party leadership that tells them to, quiet down, and they will continue to kill, to attack, and to try and destroy normal people for exercising their constitutional freedoms. And I will keep telling people, I will say what I think. There's very little you can do to me now. I don't care. Um, I will maintain, as I do with those who oppose weapons, which is one of the most irrational attitudes ever, that my guns have never killed anybody. Um, it's amazing how I come here at night and I put them in their safe. And in the morning, I find them there. And they didn't go out at night roaming and trying to find a victim. Guns don't kill people. Mine don't kill. But if any one of those fuckers ever
I
comes at
got
me, if any one of
I got
those
one on
fuckers
the
ever comes
desk
at
right
me,
here. It's in
oh,
the
you do, yeah.
it's in the this gun has never once jumped off the desk and run out the door to shoot people.
Yours too.
If I don't pick
Amazing.
it
It
up,
must be
it doesn't.
related to mine.
Well, if I don't pick it up, it doesn't move.
It-
You know,
amazing how that works, huh? So, you know, they can show their rationality, but I'm telling you, if anybody ever comes at me wherever I am, I did swore a long time ago that if it is my time to go, I'll take six with me. Because I want company for the trip. So they better know that. Of course, if you
well,
happen to be in a position where a little shit, a cowardly little shit, who cannot confront his father and is manipulated by a retard in school, picks up a bolt action rifle and shoots at you from a distance you cannot see, well, they might succeed.
well,
I,
back to
I will
this
say it again.
this.
This guy was not trained.
No,
Training,
he was he was
training,
he was going to. Uh-huh.
yeah, training makes you
He
act
was going to keep
perfect.
his rifle.
Yes,
He wanted to keep his rifle. He honestly thought he could murder Charlie Kirk and then just go on with his life and brag about it. Tell everybody, I murdered Charlie Kirk.
yeah,
And everyone
amazing.
would go, "Oh, isn't that wonderful?" No,
If you wanted
there
further
was
proof,
something wrong with him.
yeah, no, but
There was
not
something wrong
enough.
with him.
Because if anybody's hoping he can mount an insanity defense, no, he knows right from
No.
wrong.
Of course.
He
Of
is
course. I mean,
he is one pathetic nutcase, but not in the legal sense.
no. No, I mean, okay, all progressives, all leftists. Again, there wasn't a single good-looking leftist celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. They're all ugly, and the just the archetype of the woman, the young woman with the giant double chin, the glasses, and the multicolored hair, and usually some kind of facial piercings, showing herself in brutal close-up, where it's just like, I don't know. Did you see the video of the people who tried to get a photo blown up at Home Depot, and they told him they
Yes,
wouldn't do it because it was propaganda?
that
Did you
little
see the
shit
three of those
manager,
people there?
the manager wasn't qualified to clean bathrooms in
Well, somebody
uh,
said that
a
they all
public
were
building.
they were all yes, yes, yes.
No, I'm saying she wasn't qualified to clean bathrooms in a public building. The woman
What
is an
what
ignoramus with
what people
barely
were
a K
saying
12.
what people were saying is that they'd all adopted the Reddit moderator look. Like all three of
Mhm.
them were physically grotesque, and it I saw a naturalist who was talking about leftists, far leftists adopting, basically copying what nature does when animals are super toxic, like Amazon frogs. They adopt these bright colors, and all these people who are disgusting people, they're all painted in bright colors. They dye their hair bright colors. They wear bright colors. They're advertising their toxicity, just like a poison dart frog in the Amazon. And it's really true that um, they've reached they've gone as far as they can go in terms of their thoughts, their looks, their words, everything. The only thing left is for them to start behaving like chimpanzees and like crapping in their own hands and things like that, which they'll do at some point.
Which
Some
they do.
Republican will be out
Don't they
speaking,
do?
and all these fat women will be throwing their own crap at them. You know that's going to happen. Um,
They do. On
but
occasion, they do.
Well, the polls show that an alarming number of Democrats believe that it's acceptable to murder people with different political beliefs. And so, as Charlie Kirk wrote, assassination culture has become mainstreamed in the Democratic Party. And it's
Yeah.
true.
It
It's
is
true.
acceptable to many of them. By the way, they're correct in the chat. We did mean Office Depot, not Home Depot. They're saying here that all three were fired. I don't give a shit. What were they doing there? They were obviously not qualified for that job, however menial. The manager was a retard who could
That I
barely speak. So, what kind
no,
of
I
a
mean,
business are you running when you put a retard with no obvious capacities as a manager?
no. If they brought in a photo of George Floyd for a memorial,
No, they would do it, no
they would have
problem.
gladly.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago. Uh, I wanted to make my back Farak hats, and I went to a place at it's an outlet mall in St. Augustine, uh, exit 318 on I-95 in Florida, and I went over there and asked them to make a hat with this legend, and I drew it for the employee, who looked at it, then took a double take and started cracking up. And he took it out to be made. And a little while later, the manager comes out and says, "I'm sorry, sir, we cannot do this." Why the fuck not? It says here that we'll print anything on a hat for you. Well, this is the something I want printed on a hat for me. It's not your doing it, it's my doing it. You're just the needle operator. And they said no because the guy was very offended that I was offending the president. Imagine, back Farak. I got home, I met a
Well,
bunch
I
of them,
just
and six of my friends and myself went into the same store wearing our hats. And I told the guy, I sold 100 of these. You could have had the sale. No skin off your back, but you're too stupid to figure that one out, do you? Didn't do it. Now,
I'm just
I
tired
don't believe in
of people
cancel.
being offended.
Yeah, since I don't feel offended, I mean, I think the guy's an idiot, and I didn't believe in cancel culture. I didn't go to headquarters. I didn't go to the company and demand reparations because this guy offended me. I just let it be. Not anymore, by the way. I'm not gonna let one pass unnoticed. And if it is something related to Charlie, oh God forgive me. I want a pound of flesh. I want these people to
Of
pay
course.
for their callousness. I want these people to pay for
Well,
being
what they need is
such cretins.
Jesus Christ.
What they need.
What they need is the massive. They need the worst political defeat in their history. Is what they need.
Hmm. And if anybody, if you're listening to me and you're working in the service industry, if you ever deny me service because you don't agree with what I say, prepare your ass, baby, because you're gonna have a dozen stallions gallop into it. Did anyone catch the
No.
United Kingdom? Yes,
Uh-huh.
we did. Uh, we mentioned it. Alice is asking us on the chat if we caught the Unite the Kingdom rally in London. I did. It was quite impressive on Westminster Bridge. You mentioned it a little
No, I
while
mean
ago.
they're marching in South Korea, for God's sake, chanting "We are Charlie Kirk" in English. So, you know,
Yeah.
um,
In Spain, you look at the press.
Democrats.
Yep. Did
Yes,
we get mixed up again?
you're
Yeah.
you're
I'm
frozen.
okay. I'm okay now.
Yes,
Hello.
continue.
Okay. In Spain, the press is, oh God, like Rolling Stone or MSLSD here. Uh, uh, Charlie Kirk, a provocateur that offended people for a living, was killed, and everybody says, "Well, that's good, that's good." And people spontaneously started showing in front of the American embassy, and they ended up with a multitude in front of the American embassy, bringing flowers and pictures and holding a vigil. And that's an interesting thing. You see, we didn't have riots because we are offended by the death of a good man. We didn't burn down buildings. We didn't close highways. We held vigils. That's a main difference between them and us. It should stay that way.
Well, it's going to. If there was going to be violence on from our side, it would have happened. It would have happened on the 11th. It would have happened September 11th.
Yep, it
You
would
know.
have happened. It would have happened last year after Butler. Ooh, apparently, your video, people tell me, is cutting back and forth. I do see you just fine here on the monitor, but some people may be having problem. Folks, if you're having problem watching
Let
this,
me check. Let me check out, and then I'll come back. Hold on.
okay, there we go. And in the meantime, if you're having problem with transmission, remember that we are doing the transmission at uh, high definition, and depending on your internet connection, that may or may not be uh, the best thing you can have. So there we are. There we are. Your old
Yes,
self is still
yes,
here
I'm here.
somehow. But anyway, I was telling
Oh,
people
really?
by reducing the quality of the image to say 720p or 400 plus, uh, you're not going to have any problem on a phone and in most computers, and you're going to need a lot less band, and you're going to see it much better. Hmm.
Hmm.
Alice is saying, I believe Westminster Council forced the police to shut it down. A few speakers didn't get to speak, one being young Bob, a representative from Turning Point, UK, who was going to pay tribute to Charlie Kirk, and Cal Benjamin from the Lotus Eaters. Coincidence? I don't know, and I will not speculate. Um, there are a lot of peculiarities in London if you want to organize a march with permits and all that jazz. And I'm not going to speculate if I don't have the info. How about you, Thomas? Do you know anything about that? Hello?
Hi. What's up?
Oh, what's up? Uh, did you hear anything from the demonstration in London?
Yeah. I mean, it was gigantic. It was who knows how many hundreds of thousands of people, and it's okay. Charlie Kirk went all over the world, and so he was known all over the world,
Yes.
and he's he's being remembered because everybody is responding the same way that this was the last guy who should have been murdered for his beliefs, because his beliefs were so mainstream. And the fact that he was murdered by a gay Antifa furry, with a transgender girlfriend. I mean, talk about being out of the mainstream. And apparently this guy couldn't shut up about Charlie Kirk. Um, he wasn't smart enough to actually listen to Charlie Kirk. Instead, he had to
No.
murder him. And then he thought he was just going to get on with his life, that he did something that he'd be patted on the back. He had to brag about it. That's the girlfriend. People are all confused. They're saying, what's this about the FBI claiming they are the FBI pinged his phone. They had to ping his phone in order to confirm what they thought. And the father and the pastor, the youth pastor, convinced him to turn himself in. But the FBI was already onto him by then because they're getting cooperation from the transsexual girlfriend, and Charlie Kirk was murdered on the 10th, and by the 11th, people are saying, "Why haven't they made an arrest yet?" And it's like
it took the FBI 33 hours, and like you said, yes, the father convinced him to give it up, but they already had him. They already knew who he was. They already knew where he was. They've already pieced up the trail quite correctly. They already had the gun and fingerprints and images. So it took him a day and a half. A professional, by the way,
also this guy
would
just
have never
murdered
been found.
this guy just murdered Charlie Kirk with a rifle. So it's unclear how he would have reacted to the police coming to arrest him. So they had to be very careful, and they didn't just go up and knock on the door. And on the other hand, they didn't want to send in a tank full of SWAT officers. That's always the last resort.
Yep.
So it's time that, okay, leftists, their reality is purely negative, but on the right, our reality is always demanding more. Why haven't they arrested him yet? It's like, well, because this isn't TV.
This
isn't a movie.
They don't have to arrest him by the end of the episode in 1 hour.
Well, I watched a good movie. It's called Black Bag. It's a new movie, and it's on Prime. And it's about spies. It's about two spies who are married to each other. They work for British intelligence. And the husband gets a list of names. There's 5 names, and one of them is a traitor working in the office, and his wife is on the list. So he has to spy on his wife to see if she's a traitor or not. And it's a good movie. It's very entertaining, but it has nothing to do with reality. He invites all the people on the list over for dinner, and he gives them this drug called DMZ5, and it makes them all blather incontinently. So they're all just saying everything on their mind. And again, that's fine, but it's entertainment. Such a drug doesn't exist. Truth serum, when they use truth serum on you, you're almost in a twilight sleep, And in this scene, they were all perfectly conscious and awake, but they were just blathering incontinently. And so the guy who'd administered the drug, he put it in the dessert, and so they were all like, "Oh, this is a lovely dessert. I hate you, you fucker," that stuff. But people have all these dumb ideas about how things work. They don't know how things work. And in a high-profile political assassination, you don't just get in the cop car and go down the road and scoop the guy up 2 hours later, And you don't say, he was a trained marksman, and it's like, no, he wasn't. He shot Charlie in the neck. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. I saw
he was probably aiming for the chest. I'm telling you, the bullshit about this is stratospheric, and of course the way
I saw
shows you that we don't have a professional in hand. We have a very stupid fellow who got unfortunately very
there was
lucky.
There was a mortician who was talking about the skill it would take to hit the carotid artery from that distance. Yeah. And it's like,
if that's what you want to hit, yes.
But nobody would do that. Nobody would do that. It was like people claiming that Trump staged his shooting by having a real sniper shoot him in the ear. It's like, You people are retarded. You are functionally retarded.
At the next gathering, Trump is going to put an apple on his head, and somebody's going to shoot an arrow through it, just to
No,
stage it.
somebody's going to use a tank. They're going to use
Yeah,
a tank, and
a
he's going to have them
howitzer.
shoot the apple off his head with a tank
Yeah.
shell. Yeah. I mean, no, people are
No,
retarded. They don't know
people are
anything.
incredibly stupid. No, and the thing, like I said, you want to know a professional? Take a look at the exit. The
Yeah.
exit is right out of the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
If he had been a
Yeah.
professional, they would have never found him.
Well,
And
he
it
was
would
on
have, and it
camera
would have been,
jumping off the roof, and then
yeah, it would have been two
he
bullets
was
to
on
the head.
camera the whole time. Yeah.
Um, by the way, there was a location to the right of this guy in the shade. That would have been a much better location to not be spotted. So he didn't even
No, I
case
mean
the right.
he's a 22-year-old idiot. He's borderline. He's got something wrong with him. At best, he's just some spoiled infantile weirdo.
Somebody saying, would it
His
be worth it
father.
to keep him? Is that right? Somebody
What?
saying in the chat. Somebody saying in the chat, would it be worth it to keep him alive so we can study him? No, unless you want to do a
No,
vivisection.
because he's a dime a dozen. Think about this. This guy is peak leftism. He's a gay Antifa furry with a transgender girlfriend. I mean, there's nothing to learn from him. He's just pathetic. He's absolutely pathetic. I saw a prisoner, a former inmate who's got a big channel on YouTube, and he was talking about just how stupid all of this was. Just, discounting the atrocity itself. Just the mugshot. In the mugshot, the guy's wearing an anti-suicide vest, and he said, when you're put on suicide watch, they put this vest on you and you're naked underneath it. You have no underwear, you have nothing, you have no socks, and they put you in this concrete room, and it has a hole in the floor, and that's where you crap into. And there's nothing in the room, and it's got 4 glass walls, and the entire staff, as they're walking by, they just peer in to make sure you're not killing yourself. And he said, how stupid is that? You're wearing, they call it the turtle suit, because it's green. Yep. And it's made of unterrible material. And so he's on suicide watch now with his dick hanging out, having to crap in the floor, and there's no toilet paper. So, welcome to your life, Sonny. I'll bet you wish you'd stayed home with your transsexual furry girlfriend.
Stroking the fur. No, I can't take this shit seriously. I can't. All I want, by the way, everybody is saying how Utah has death by firing squad, and they do. It's true.
You have to choose it, though.
You have to choose it, and I don't know if federal charges are guided by this. I don't think. I think that if the state of Utah is the one charging you, that is an option. If you have federal charges, I think that you're going to the electric chair a la Timothy McVeigh. I'm okay with either, but I do also believe that we have to go back to televised executions. I think
After
that
what?
we have to go back to televised executions. I don't think we actually ever televised them. We used to have the press corps taking pictures of them. But I think we should go for televised executions. I think that people should see with their own eyes the consequences of this folly. You do this, this is what happens to you. It would
Yeah,
be
I
an,
think
an
I think the
improvement.
plan is to get I think the plan is to get this guy on the gurney as fast as possible. And you know, um, who knows? He may plead not guilty, and will have to be a trial. I don't know how long inmates on death row have to wait in Utah. Um, they killed one guy by firing squad.
Yep.
Um, my guess is this guy will choose lethal injection. He doesn't strike me as particularly courageous.
Oh, you can make bets on that. You can make bets on that. Go to some online betting outfit and you bet on the cowardice of this guy, you're going to win. I don't think, however, that the payoff will be high. Um, so anyway, well, not bad. If you don't mind, Thomas, uh, today I have to keep it at 2 hours. Uh, as you know, I have been nearly 48 hours, and it would be good to keep this short. And I
to
see that,
uh, to cut it off at 2 hours.
yeah, at the 2 hour mark,
Okay.
we have about 10, 15 minutes, and your internet is kind of acting up, so um, that's another reason why we may want to just bow out. Um, Let me see if there are any questions here that people may want to ask us. Um, I think Utah is a lethal injection unless they don't have the materials. Now, Utah legalized shooting squad. The condemned may opt for a shooting squad. Um, bu- 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 I think you have to plead not guilty to death sentence. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Is Thomas' laptop plugged in? No, no,
If I'm
it's
what?
not plugged
Am I?
in. If your laptop is plugged in, no, it isn't plugged in. It's plugged out. You run out of battery, and that's why he's not here. I've just conjured his image on the screen so that I have somebody to talk to. I don't know. Is your computer plugged in?
It's plugged in, and I have a Wi-Fi. Everything looks fine on my end. It's just sometimes things get screwed up. Um,
And
Maybe it's
sometimes
the
not
deep state.
necessarily. Sometimes not in your end. Maybe it's the deep state, as you say. Um, maybe it's little green men from Mars. Um, I just saw there is an American Airlines pilot that was celebrating. Yes, and by the way, let's please on the chat, let's go for real questions because we've all seen hundreds of monsters celebrating, and many of them are already fired, and many of them have been put on administrative leave if they're like tenured professors. And this is going to go on for a week. I'm already sick and tired of the minute by minute report of this guy is celebrated, that guy is celebrated. There's a shit ton of them. And I hope they're all fired. But frankly, I don't have to. I don't have a different opinion for each and every one of them. They're all assholes. Am I getting this wrong, Thomas?
Yeah. For some reason, Andy No has decided to do a big piece on Charlie Kirk's, the murderer's transgender girlfriend.
Ooh.
I don't know why you would do that. Did this person know about the plot and help in it? From what I heard, the person turned all his information over to the cops immediately.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna know more. Maybe he did know and then said, "Oh shit." Maybe he didn't know and still said, "Oh shit." But uh, I don't think it's very important. Although they're gonna go for anybody and everybody who had prior knowledge if there is such. Um, and Father Chris wants to know, in the midst of all of these, how are things going in Eastern Europe right now? Uh,
uh,
by the way,
I think
remember Davidoff?
yes.
Okay, that asshole was celebrating Charlie's death. He can go fuck himself. If I needed somebody to prove what I always say, my point with Ukraine has nothing to do with Ukrainians. I don't give a shit about Ukrainians, but I do give a shit about upending the post World War II rule based system in Europe, because I don't want my son to fight in a continental war to protect the French from their own idiocy, like my grandfather's generation. And this fucker Davidoff is proving my point. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
his shit. He was celebrating Charlie's demise.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, and it doesn't change my opinion on the need to keep Russia out of Ukraine. And it unfortunately cements my opinion that Ukrainians are shit. Um, what I've noticed is that
Well, the Russian.
the stupid Russians have been flying drones over Poland and Romania.
Yeah. If you I watch a Baptist pastor who's covering the Russia Ukraine war, and he's really good because he never brings religion into it. And basically, his sources tell him that the Russians are doing this because Russia is about to collapse. That
Yeah.
there are I mean, the Russian economy it basically no longer exists. And um, okay, the Russians have one final brigade left, or maybe it's a corps. I don't know. But anyway, it's taking part in this exercise right up on the Polish-Lithuanian border, where they train in how to take the that corridor that goes to wherever the fuck it's called, the Russian exclave on the Baltic Sea,
Kaliningrad.
Kaliningrad. Yeah. And
Königsberg.
so the Poles and the Lithuanians have moved 40,000 troops to the border, and basically the Russians have nothing but ramshackle junk. And the Russians have brought their Northern Fleet out, and the Northern Fleet is nothing but ramshackle junk. And apparently the story is that the Russians are trying to mess with NATO because they think that by messing with NATO will stop supplying Ukraine. And it's, of course, exactly the opposite. The more Russia shows how dangerous it is, the more we help Ukraine. And okay, you've been hearing about these massive drone attacks that the Russians have been launching on Ukraine, 100% on civilian targets.
Yep. Empirical
Just 2
results
weeks
of that.
ago, people were saying that there's no effective defense against drones. You know what's an effective defense against drones is other drones. So the Russians are sending $10,000 drones, and the Ukrainians are crashing $5 drones into them. And the Ukrainians are using AI. The drones are piloted up to a certain point, and then AI takes over. So you can plug in, you can knock down almost 100% of the drones. And this is how we have canisters that our jets drop that release micro drones, and each one of those micro drones could be used to take out a drone that was sent to bomb one of our cities or something. So the idea that there's no effective defense against drone warfare is ludicrous. The Ukrainians, the Poles have imported multiple Ukrainian drone experts to build up the Polish drone defense forces. So there's this pathological need to build up Russia as this unstoppable giant, even though now, like, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. Russia is it's teetering. And
yep.
Say it again.
Trump this week said something that we know. If NATO stopped buying all oil from Russia, Russia wouldn't last a month.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing sustaining them at this point.
And we have the Europeans wagging their fingers at us to do more while they're buying oil and gas from the Russians. So fuck them. I mean, holy shit.
No, which we have underscored time and time again. The Germans are buying more oil and gas from Russia now than they did before Russia invaded Ukraine. And it's about time. And of course, while pointing the finger at Hungary, as if Hungary were the odd man out on this one, Spain is buying a shit ton of gas from Russia, and so is France. So it's time that they put their wallet where their mouth is. There's plenty of places. Turkey is buying a shit ton of oil from Russia. Turkey could be buying oil from the Kurds.
Well, how about from the fucking Norwegians? How about from the Dutch? The Dutch have turned off all their natural gas spigots. All they need to do is turn them on again.
Yep. And there's also, says Ayo, those in development, endurance systems, which fry drone electronics, and they drop out of the sky. Yeah, the Israelis have very advanced versions of that. So, uh, Trump is gonna lambast the Europeans. Hopefully, he's gonna get some of them. He's already got some of them to start buying more gas from the U.S. There is, God, all they have to do is flip the switch in Holland, and you have all the gas Europe needs right there. So it can be done. Whether there's a will to do it or not, we'll find out soon enough. In the meantime, no, Europe is not going to abandon Ukraine, and Russia is in deep shit anyhow. And Davidov can go fuck himself. God, remember that we used to watch him quite a bit at the beginning. He used to do a nice little aggregate of news in the front. And then he started
Yeah, yeah.
deviating into politics, and I stopped watching. I
Yep.
think you did too, because it was more anti-Trump propaganda than anything else. And right now, I don't care if one of those Russian drones climbs up his ass. Idiot. You know,
No,
somebody ought to tell these rabid dogs, you don't bite the hand that offer you bacon, asshole.
well, these are Europeans, and they're not rational. They're as irrational as American Democrats. Not all of them, as shown by the marches and everything, but okay, Trump is he's a touchstone. Um, if you hate Trump, something's wrong with you mentally. You have a mental problem because there's no reason to hate Trump. You can disagree with him, but there's no reason to hate him. He's done nothing to earn your hatred. And you know, the
Unless
whole
you're
all of
already a
the
deviant.
well, all the European channels that were covering the Ukraine war, they all hate Trump. So I stopped watching all of them. And you know, besides, it's been a war of attrition for years now. So what is there to watch? Um, I don't I don't like watching videos of drones dropping bombs on Russians who are trying to surrender or whatever. I mean, I don't feel bad for the Russians, but on the other hand, I just don't want to fill my head with that imagery. Um,
Hmm.
this is all
Not to
going to
mention
end
the
only
fact that
one way, and
it's a daily occurrence that doesn't move the needle anyway.
yeah. So
This is going to be won in banks.
yeah, I just I'm in a point in my life right now where I cherish rationality and calmness and the ability to think more than anything. And when I come across people who refuse to think, um, I don't really want to have anything to do with them. So, and I don't miss watching all these channels. I used to watch this Latvian, no, Estonian guy,
Yep.
and holy shit, all he talked about was how he kept having to take time off because of his depression and all his medications, and it's just like, okay, we get it. Stop talking about it. You're fishing for sympathy, and there's hundreds of millions of people in this world who have depression and have to take medication for it. And just grit your teeth, and we don't have to know all of this. That's personal stuff that you should keep to yourself. um I don't know.
Yep.
I'm just, I like normality. What can I say?
More and more every day. And on
Yep.
that note, Thomas, uh, folks, if you're watching at this point, it's because you like us. So please support us so that we can keep doing this. We receive no money from Zelensky either, none from USAID. The Democrat Party hate us. We never ask money from any organization, and sadly, we didn't get a dime from Soros. So we depend on our viewers to keep the show running. Several ways you can help. Come to Odyssey, click on join and join the channel as a member, or support and make a donation. You can, if you're in Twatter, or formerly Twatter and now X, uh, you can go to at the Brother Lie and subscribe. $5 per month, like half a Starbucks latte. If enough people do it, we might be able to pay our bills. And the always tried and true quadverum.com/support us, where you can make a one-time or a monthly contribution to both this channel and SPD. And having said that, uh, I hope you find it in your heart to send us a cup of coffee. And Deb is taking a page from my Communist Manifesto, poor imitation every now and then. Normies of the world unite. Yeah, but I don't like the word normie, you see, because it's if you're normal, you don't need to advertise it. Abnormals of the world can unite themselves if they find the need. The normals of this world, we don't need this kind of shit. But anyway, what else do we have? Too many people, says Ayo, are emotionally incontinent and in desperate need for rubber sheets. I think that's exactly what you were talking about. Uh, And that's it. The free speech level in London was mostly rational and normal. Um, Good. I like that. About time.
I just read
And
that the march was. I just read that the march was the largest in British history.
hmm. Oh well. Remember when I told you London is not lost? That people
Mm,
show you three packies in a corner pressing their chest like orangutans, and London is gone. And I kept telling you, no, you walk around London, it hasn't changed. Well, we're about to find out that I was right, except that most people go about their business, go to the office, go home, have tea with the missus, and don't give a flying crap about any of this shit that social media wants to discuss until you put a finger where it hurts. And the Democrats just did that. Everybody with a conscience in this planet, from Korea to Argentina, from Spain to Italy, from Los Angeles to New York, is upset and I wouldn't say irate, but definitely concerned. And the killing of our friend is making more people realize the depth of the pravity of the socialists we have allowed to play in our sandbox for far too long. They are going to do more mischief, but I think that the tide is turning. And I think it's almost poetic justice that this is because of their attack on the founder of Turning Point. We are at a turning point, most definitely. So, um, ah, people go to Ilford or Tower Hamlets and scream, London is lost. London's problem is too many Islington sociotards. Totally agree with this. Totally agree with this. Um, but anyway, that's maybe a subject for next week. Um, Tomorrow, I'm going to do the quad meet at 10:30 p.m. People, if you're watching this, you're more than welcome to come to the quad meet and You can join us on camera if you want. That's what we do. And with that, Thomas, do you have a last word for us?
Yeah. Dollar.
Eh?
Dolor. Dollar.
Dollar. Oh, thank you. For a moment, I said dollar. I said, what? Yeah, we know about the dollar. Wait. No, dollar. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Take care, people. And Godspeed, Charlie. Until we meet again.